All right, welcome everybody. This is week 2, ET210, Sustainable Engineering. So this is the PowerPoint that I have put together in the past. You maybe have seen it, but this time I'm going to wrap a lecture with it so we can talk about a few things. Thanks for doing the sustainability work that you've done, looking up your own definition, and then also going through the Michigan State definition of it. So those are really fascinating to read through, and I appreciate the time and energy you use to do it. This class is a super interesting class. I always love teaching it. I learn a lot. I'm not a sustainability expert, but I've learned quite a bit teaching this class over the years, and then I practice some of it. So, which you will see as we go through the term. But the class is about this list that you see on screen. We want to be able to kind of understand what sustainability is as it relates to engineering. We want to then make sure we understand what a life cycle analysis is, because that's a common tool used in the development of a product these days. We're going to go through the major renewables. You can probably think of the more common ones like solar and wind, but there's things like biomass and geothermal. And a few others that we're going to go through. So hydro is known as a sustainable energy source. So we're going to talk about energy. We're going to talk about the consumption of energy. We're going to talk a lot about electricity, which you've all started watching a movie about. That movie's more entertaining than I am, but I will spend my time with electricity so you understand how to calculate that consumption. That is a very big deal. The day we discovered electricity, and then the day we figured out how to uniformly distribute it, those days changed the world forever, and our existence forever, and how we live our life completely changed. Can you imagine our world without electricity? If you've been through a storm, the power goes out, how well do you do? We are very dependent, very, very dependent. We'll talk a little bit about LEED, and that's in the construction world. We're going to play with a sustainable community through the term, and then we're going to play with some software, also Revit, and some energy analysis that we can do. So it should be fun. I really enjoy the class. I hope you do too. I'm going to minimize myself a little bit, and we'll go through a few things. I want you to look at this graph and just think about it for a second. And maybe you know what it is, but if you don't, I'll tell you what it is, but just like, what do you think the number line is at the bottom? And then what do you think the graph is demonstrating? So it is a graph. Not sure you can see my pointer, but the left edge is 0. And then the right edge looks like it's 4,000. So you can pause the video if you want to think about it more. I don't want to do a spoiler, but I'm going to tell you, so you would pause it now if you want to think about it a little bit. It's my favorite graph. I think of all graphs. So this is a graph of time. So this is 0 time, or when we started keeping track of the years. So you might think of it as, just 0 year. And then obviously we have 500 years, 1,000, and then we have 1,500, and then we have 2,000. So 2020, the year we're in right now, is in the middle of this dark space where the graph has gone to the ceiling. This is a graph of our consumption of fossil fuels or petroleum. So we didn't find or discover how to use fossil fuels until well before, the year 2000. It was probably in the 1900s, but early 1900s is when we discovered it. And since then, our consumption rate has gone up intensely since the discovery of it. And at some point, our consumption of fossil fuels will head down because it's not renewable. There's a limited amount in the ground that we can pump out. So this is a graph of the consumption of fossil fuel. So if you lived in the year, let's say 2500, they will look at this graph and they will look back in time and say, holy smokes, blah, blah, blah. What will they say? I think they'll say, wow, they were consuming, they found something incredibly powerful and they consumed it as fast as they could. We're in that cycle now, and I can't tell you how to break that cycle, but I can tell you that this graph is accurate, historically accurate so far. In other words, we have slowed down our consumption, but it's still way up on top of this graph. So at some point we will run out, and it's not my generation that will run out. It's not even your generation that will run out, but a generation in the future will run out. That doesn't mean it's doomsday. That just means we consumed it. It's gone. It went into the environment. It went into the air in a different form than it came out of the ground. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's the way it is. And we are going to have to find some different energy sources than fossil fuel. So anyway, that's this graph. I love it. All right. So here we are in our galaxy. Our sun is where this thing's pointing. I'm sure of it. But you know, it's a big place and we have a very small planet. So no matter what the situation is with climate change, we should take care of our planet because there's not a lot of other places to go that we're aware of. So this is our current image from space of our planet at night. And so you can't get the whole planet at night. So they've taken a few of these and put them together. But you know, we consume a lot of electricity. We light up our nights, and that's got to come from somewhere. So that energy for many, many years, and still to this day, comes from coal and coal-fired power plants, and is consuming resources. So here we are in this class. We're going to learn a little bit about it. I told you I would give you my definition of sustainability. So here it is, but it won't progress forwards. Oh, there we go. All right. So I like the definition that's given to us by the Native Americans. And their definition, and this is back, well, this could easily go back, you know, 300-400 years, well before we even thought about sustainability. The Confederacy of Native Americans has always lived by this statement. It's in our every deliberation, we must consider the impact of our decisions on the next 7 generations. So that means what we're doing now, we need to think about the impact. Any decision we make, our decision to buy a vehicle that gets poor gas mileage, or our decision to not explore renewable energy, or our decision to not fully understand climate change and respond appropriately. All of those decisions, we should be thinking about the next 7 generations. So, I mean, you can do that math. That's not my kids. That's 1 generation. That's not their kids. That's 2. Their kids, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is a long ways in the future. So I think it's really good. It's a good sustainability quote. It's open. It applies to a lot of different areas. All right. There's just some concepts that we're going to go through as you're watching the electricity movie. Maybe think about these because we're going to answer these questions as we move forward and explore what electricity is. And what is a watt? And what is a volt? And what is an amp? So I've put the letters next to them. Watt is a capital W because it's named after a scientist. So anytime you have something named after a scientist, we capitalized it. So there you go. Anyway, we're going to explore these. So you can do a little pre-exploring if you want. Oh, I'm not going to do that one. But that's it. That's what I wanted to talk about. You're going to do the 2nd hour of the electricity movie. Maybe you watch the whole thing, but and I'm going to post up some questions about that so you can respond to it before we continue on. So, all right. I hope that helps and gets us started. And I look forward to working with you. If you have any questions, of course, send those to me. I will try to get them answered. All right. Have a good evening and stay safe and healthy.